So Congress only has 2 weeks left in its lame duck session, and it may not get around to a possible repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We'll see. A recent Pentagon report showed most service members would be okay with a repeal, but some are dead set against it. Our Kate Baldwin explains where some of the strongest opposition is coming from.
Some of the most intense and divergent views on gays serving openly in the military, according to the Pentagon's Don't Ask, Don't Tell report, exist among military chaplains.
There was very clearly a concern out there by chaplains that they would somehow be treated adversely if they held or espoused religious views that were contrary to the government's view if the law is repealed.
There is an obligation to care for all, but it also is clear that the chaplains are not going to be asked to teach something they don't believe in.
Despite the divergent opinions, a change in policy would have little impact on the chaplain corps, according to the report.
All right, I spoke about Don't Ask, Don't Tell a short time ago with conservative radio host and CNN political contributor William Bennett. He says the debate over any possible repeal can't end yet.
The closer you get to combat, the more opposition you get. Marines who are going to be in combat are opposed. Also, Army folks who are in combat Army are opposed.
I want to welcome Erik Alva via Skype right now. He is a former Marine Staff Sergeant and spokesman for the Human Rights Campaign. Thanks for joining us. So Sergeant Alva was the very first American wounded in the Iraq War. I want to get that clear. Very first American wounded in the Iraq War. He is also gay, and he wants to see Don't Ask, Don't Tell come to an end. You heard what Bill Bennett had to say there, mentioning that your branch, the Marines, seem to be the most opposed to repeal. Why is that?
You know, I can understand Marines being the most, pretty much narcissistic in our branch of the service because they are, deemed the best, and sometimes they are the last ones to actually, accept change. I remember when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was about to be initiated into law, we held discussions on what the new law was going to be about, because I was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell and post Don't Ask, Don't Tell when I joined the military. From experience in serving 13 years in the Marine Corps, most of them accepted me. In fact, I would say 99.9% accepted me for who I was. And if anything, our camaraderie and our unit cohesion was just grown stronger. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. Society is changing. Corporate America is changing from the hotel, car, airline, retail industry. People, if they can't work with gay people in the military, good luck on finding a job in society.
Sam, I want to bring in now Dr. Erik Fisher. He's a psychologist here and has been looking into this issue and discussing it and studying it. The argument about unit cohesion that would affect the men who are in the trenches. What do you make of that?
There's some validity to it in some ways, because we have to be aware that we're all feeling human beings, and emotion is a large part of this. Fear is a part of it, and when fear is a motivating factor, fear is about survival. And the thing with homosexuality in the military, homosexuality is reduced at some levels to a religious issue for some, it's a moral issue for others, it's a political issue for some. So there's all these different issues that are affecting it. And I agree that I think we live in a world that we have to accept who we are as individuals, and we live in a country that prides itself on individual liberties and freedoms. We also have to understand that we're still human beings, and we still have emotions, and we have to look at our own emotions.
Does fear trump basic human rights, especially when you look at the same, people would use the same argument, and I hate to do this every time, but it's the only one that's closely related, I think, or relatable, is when the military was integrated. People said, oh, I don't want to be, blacks are different. We're different people.
Right.
It's the same argument. So does that trump basic human rights? Does fear trump that?
It does and it doesn't, because the issue you have to look at is that in this world, it only takes one person to express their fear onto somebody in a harmful way for this then to become a huge issue. We have to move ahead in our culture. I agree, we have to move ahead in our culture and make these changes.
What if people use the same argument in the workplace? I mean, I'm sure there are people in my workplace or in with people who around the country, people don't agree with them, people don't agree with their lifestyle, they don't like the football team that they like, they don't like what university. There are a myriad of things that people disagree with, but that doesn't make it right or acceptable, and you wouldn't allow that in the workplace.
Exactly. Well, and that's where we have our definitions of, of what's good, what's strong, and what's right in our culture. That's about our culture being very hierarchical and control-based. The need for control is always based in fear. And this, as I said, is a huge fear-based issue. People who are younger and younger generations, they have grown up in a culture that's more accepting of homosexuality.
And wouldn't this be discussed like diversity issues? You have to take diversity courses. That's a part of what you're supposed to do, your orientation and the daily literature and message from the company.
Right. In this situation, any phase-in of this change or repeal and it needs to come with a great deal of education from the top down and bottom up. There needs to be focus groups, potential needs to be many discussions had. The people who really are going to implement this are going to be the sergeants in a lot of ways who are on the field and on the ground with their troops.
Okay, and listen, you have to, Sergeant Alva, you have to listen to the people who this actually affects, and that's going to be the people who are in the trenches, and you were one of them. I was talking to someone in the Air Force who said, you know, for me, Don, it really doesn't matter because I wasn't in the daily, day-to-day contact with the enemy, so to speak. I was sort of in a periphery role. But for those guys who are out there in the trenches, I can't answer that question for them, so you'd have to listen to them.
That's true. I mean, I think, and as the doctor was saying, it takes one person to have that opposition, and people start having that ripple effect and snowball effect that now people start to jump on the bandwagon and start to say, I can't work with them, I won't deal with it. It's inevitable. Don't ask, don't tell will be repealed.
Okay, Mr. Alva, that's going to have to be the last word. Thank you very much. You spent a lot of time here, and I really appreciate the conversation. Erik Alva and also Erik Fisher here in Atlanta. Appreciate it, guys.